All right, with the GOP debate here just hours away, we now turn to today's big story guest. I want to introduce everybody to James Uthmeir. He's the campaign manager for Florida Republican Governor and presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis. James, thank you so much for being here with us. I appreciate your time. As you may know, we are working in this newsroom covering some breaking news here about yet another mass shooting in our country. This happened at the University of Las Vegas, Nevada. Any word on if that will be a question, if that will come up on the debate stage tonight, and how will Ron DeSantis respond?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a question tonight. We certainly don't get those in advance. But, you know, Ron DeSantis has addressed this issue time and time again. More often than not, the shootings, it's not a result of the gun. It's a result of the person, of the mental health issues. More often than not, it's not somebody that's lawfully been screened and purchased a firearm. It's somebody that's a bad person off, you know, acting illegally. But at the end of the day, tonight, we're going to be ready for the issues that come up, whether that's the border, economy, you name it, we're ready to go.
And, James, this is the last debate before the Iowa caucus. DeSantis has secured Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds' endorsement. How will he use that to his advantage tonight to try and set himself apart, especially from Nikki Haley, who's just a few points behind him in the polls, but really gaining some steam?
Sure. So Ron DeSantis and, you know, the governor there in Iowa, they're traveling the state together. Having Kim Reynolds' endorsement is not just a seal of approval, but she's a hard worker. She's running around the state telling everybody why he is the candidate that can beat both Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And that's because he is the only conservative who will be on that stage tonight. I understand the media's current love affair with Nikki Haley, but at the end of the night, she's going to be exposed again for who she is, not a true conservative. Somebody who changes position, whether she's in Iowa, New Hampshire, day in, day out. I mean, just recently she said there should be no legal protections to protect kids against transgender surgeries, mutilating surgeries. That's child abuse. That is not something that conservatives are going to vote for. That is not something that can win a Republican primary, and that will be clear tonight.
Well, we know the governor and his policies were very popular in Florida. He was seen as a rising star among the Republican base, but has really failed to gain a lot of ground. Seems, of course, he remains a distant second to Donald Trump. So what will he do to convince voters that he, in fact, is the best candidate tonight?
Sure. Well, he will talk about his vision for the country. He will talk about how he's going to break Bidenomics, how he's going to unleash energy, how he's going to stand up against Wall Street and the globalists, some of Nikki's biggest donors, to protect families, to help people put more food on the table, to make gas cheaper at the pump. And he, you know, you can trust he's going to do it. Why? Because he's done it all before. In Florida, he delivered on every single one of his promises, whether it's record-breaking tax relief, making Florida the #1 state economy, whether it's universal school choice, giving parents an option on where to send their kids. You name it, he promised and he delivered on every one of those promises. That will be clear today. And look, it's a wonder why the media is attacking him, why he's being outspent on negatives 5-1. You have Donald Trump and Nikki Haley both attacking him and not one another. And perhaps that's because she's running for something other than the presidency. But the reality is everybody realizes that Ron DeSantis is the one who will fight, and he is the one who will win. He will win and he will lead. Everybody knows that, and that's why they're going after him. But hey, when there's heavy winds in your face, usually means you're doing something right. You're fighting the good fight. We will fight that fight, and Ron DeSantis will win.
Well, abortion is likely to be a topic on the debate stage tonight. The governor's 6-week ban in Florida is controversial this year. Many young voters say abortion is a top 5 issue for them. So how does the governor speak to that demographic tonight?
Sure. Well, the governor's unapologetically pro-life. He signed a heartbeat bill in Florida. Many other states have passed those bills, Iowa, Georgia, Ohio, other states. So that's who he is, and he's not going to back down from those principles. Nikki Haley, on the other hand, she says she's supportive and will sign a 6-week bill with protections, with no exceptions after 13 weeks when she's in Iowa. But when she's in New Hampshire, she sounds very pro-choice. So he's not afraid to be who he is. He will never back down on his principles. And he also recognizes that this isn't really a role for Congress. Congress doesn't have much authority here but to step in when states like California want to do heinous things like commit abortions all the way up until birth, and some calling for that afterwards. It's largely based on the Supreme Court ruling, an issue that's been handed down to the states. And yes, Florida passed a heartbeat bill. Other states are going to do different things.
All right, James Uthmeir, we really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I want to bring our big story to our panel now. So joining us today is our ABC News contributor and SiriusXM radio host Mike Muse, along with former Republican representative from New York, John Katko, Democratic strategist and co-founder of Lift Our Voices, Julie Rodzinski, and ABC News contributor and op-ed columnist for the LA Times, LZ Granderson. Thank you all for being here with us. So John, here, let's start with you. First of all, how significant are these debates when we see this polling from 538 that shows a lot of registered Republicans aren't even watching the debates? I mean, part of it is because some of them just say, I'm going to vote for Trump, and his lead's so large. So do these matter?
Well, I think they do matter because, as you see, the field has winnowed down considerably. And I think it's very interesting that the campaign manager for DeSantis focused all his attention on one person, not the other three on the other two on the stage, just one. That's Nikki Haley. And I think they're seeing the same polls everyone else is. Nikki Haley has benefited from these debates. It's raised her profile, it's raised her stature, and she's nipping at his heels. And I think they're very nervous. They put all their chips on Iowa, and if he doesn't come in second place in Iowa and Haley surpasses him, that campaign is in big trouble. And I think they know that.
Yeah, he went on a 99-county tour of Iowa trying to get those votes. Julie, we saw earlier today that former Alabama Democratic Senator Doug Jones said that this is really not a debate tonight, and you can't debate when the front runner isn't even there. So how does the Democratic Party benefit from the division among Republicans? Oh, I think that, Julie, you might be muted. So we'll circle back with you, okay, because I definitely want to hear your answer. But Mike Muse, let's turn here to you. Do you think that anyone, first of all, can set themselves apart from Trump or set themselves up to beat Trump? And then at what point do we have to start talking about the candidate that could then beat Biden?
All great layered questions, Kata, so I'll try and take it in order that you can. I think today will be the mission of today in terms of separating themselves from the pack. I think tonight will be Nikki Haley's night because I have a feeling that at front and center will be Israel and Hamas. As her being a former ambassador to the United Nations, foreign affairs is her strong suit. In terms of separating herself from the leader of the pack, former President Trump, this will be something that needs to happen on tomorrow moving forward. But lastly, Kana, for me, and to what John Katko just mentioned perfectly, was that James' attention was focused on Nikki Haley. The other name that came up was Governor Kim Reynolds of Iowa. And he said that she's a hard worker. But what they're missing, Kana, is that Nikki Haley is now backed by the Koch brothers super PAC. And what their aim to do is to help Nikki Haley on the ground. As we know, it's a caucus state. And so it's all about explaining to the Iowa Republican caucus goers how caucusing works. That's how Obama was able to win Iowa. They really focused on the education of the Iowa caucus voters because it's a complicated system. I think that's the secret X factor that we're not really being discussed on how that can have impact for Nikki Haley going forward.
Yeah, that endorsement is huge, and you're really right to point it out, Mike. And LZ, I'll bring this to you. Not only is she getting endorsed by the Americans for Prosperity Action, but this is happening while essentially the super PACs with DeSantis, are falling apart. People are leaving. So LZ, some of these things really have to add up, and the numbers matter.
Yeah, the numbers absolutely do matter. The thing that's interesting about Governor DeSantis is that his real issue is that he's a terrible campaigner. As his campaign manager was saying, he's really come through on a lot of the things that he's promised on the campaign trail. It's just he's not very personable. And I think that's what you're really seeing is that the more people get to know him, the more they realize they don't like him. And the reason why Nikki Haley is rising, one, her policies are sensible, but two, from a personality perspective, you ask yourself, who would I rather spend more time with? And time again, through my reporting, Nikki Haley seems to come above.
And she really knocks it out of the park on those debate stages as well. So, Julie Regency, I do want to allow you to weigh in here and talk a little bit about how Democrats really can capitalize on the division amongst the Republican Party.
I mean, what are we talking about here? We keep talking about Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis. Nobody's talking about the elephant in the room, which is that Donald Trump is going to be the Republican nominee. And this undercard debate, or these undercard candidates, are sitting here trying to slaughter each other, trying to score points against each other. But except for Chris Christie, not one of them has the backbone to actually take on the guy who they're trying to win the race against, because he is going to be the nominee, barring all of them waking up and taking him on. Democrats are laughing at this, but at the same time, Democrats fully understand, the same way that Republicans got behind Trump in 2016 after screaming at him for the course of the primaries. They'll get in line with him again come Super Tuesday, or probably even earlier, when he romps in Iowa, romps in New Hampshire, and probably beats Nikki Haley even in South Carolina. So, look, Democrats are very clear-eyed about who the Republican nominee is going to be. Republican voters are very clear-eyed about who the Republican nominee is going to be. The only people who are playing this kabuki theater are the ones who are trying to get into a debate to talk about each other, but not talk about the elephant in the room, which is Donald Trump.
All right, Mike, John, Julie, and LZ. Oh, yeah, LZ, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, because I think this is important in terms of Biden's candidacy, and that when you think about his remarks saying he's juxtaposing himself to the candidacy of Donald Trump, this epitomizes why there is an enthusiasm gap.
Yeah.
Everything is pointing towards someone who is so unlikable. If Biden has a way of having people to think about him as opposed to thinking about stopping Donald Trump, I think the comment that he made would land easier. But because so much is about Donald Trump, what he said about not running unless it was Trump felt really uneasy to hear for both Democrats, but really it's the country as a whole.
All right. I think that's a really good point as well. LZ, Mike Muse, Julie Regency, and John Katko, thank you as always for your time.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.